Hello students, today we are going to see a very interesting topic, that is data flow diagram. In shortly it is called as DFD. Today we are going to see the introduction, the data flow diagram, creating a data flow diagram using an example. Okay, let us see it in detail. Now we are going to see the history of DFD. The data flow diagram were a popularized diagrammatic form in UML, and it was introduced in the late of 1970s, arrived from the book called Structured Design. The author of this book is Jordan and Larry Constant. They are based on the data flow graph, which is derived by the authors called David Martin and Jordan Estin. This structured design concept took off in software engineering field for deriving how a data has been flowed from one destination to another. Let us see an introduction about DFD. DFD maps the flow information for any process or a system or an application, and it is defined symbols like a rectangle, circle, arrows, plus short text by labels. So here it uses an input data, output data, storage point, and it gives the route between each destinations like entities. And this data flow chart that can ranges from a simple, even hard-driven process overviews to an in-depth multiple level of DFD, so that we come to know how the data has been transformed from one destination point to another destination point through all the process. Let us see the symbols and notations in DFD. Two common systems of symbols are named after their creators, who is one is Karen Jordan and the another one is Jane and Sharon. These are the authors who have derived the symbols and the notations of DFD. Let us see it in detail. The four components of data flow diagram are: the first one is external entity, the next is process, after that data store and data flow. These are all the four major components of your DFD. The data flow diagram notations. The symbols used for store in Card and Jordan using a parallel line, and in Jane and Sharon's notations use an open-ended rectangle, and all the data flow diagram that must include the four elements: entity, process, data flow and data store. What we have seen, right? Let us see what are all the symbols which let us see the symbols with the notation for the two methods, that is Yaran and Card and Jane and Sharon, right? So external entity that is indicated by using the symbol Card and Yaran method is a square, and Jane and Sharon's method is also a square or a rectangle for both, and a process can be indicated as a circle or else a semi-ended square with a partition line, and a data store that is indicated by a half rectangle, and in Gain and Sharon's method it is in half rectangle with an open-ended partition, and at the data flow it is indicated by an arrow symbol for both the methods. Let us say about a DFD entity. An external entity, which may be a person or it may be a place or a thing, it can indicate. So the entity is also known as an actor, source or sink and terminator, like a source or destination from where it begins and where it ends. Where the action has to be start and where it has to be end. Everything will be mentioned by using this entity, and all the levels of DFT is also regarding this entity. Okay, an external entity produces and consumes the data that flow between the entity and the system that being diagrammed. Okay, so this is the work of external entity. Let us see DFD process. An activity is indicated over here as a process. So what are all the activity that can be done by an entity that will be indicated here within a process as an activity that transforms or change the data flow. And this type of transformation, that incoming a data and outgoing a data must be there, and all the process must have an input and also the output in the DFT diagram. So this symbol is given as a simple name based on its function or an activity, such as example, shipping order is one of the process that can be done. We doesn't want to label it as only a process on the DFT diagram. Let us say about the data store. The data store is a process of storing the information for a long term, right? It does not generate any operation, but it simply holds the data for later access or later use. The data store consists of files that help long term or a batch of document that stored briefly while they are waiting for the process or to be proceed. In the input flow to a data store, that includes the information or the operation that can change the data store. And the output flow, that would be the data retrieved from the data store. What are all the data that can be stored by using the process is said to be the data store, and the output that is from the data store is that the data what is retrieved from the data store to the process is said to be the output flow of your data store. And next one is data flow. We know that the data flow is indicated by an arrow symbol, and here it is majorly focused on the movement of data between the external entity and the process. And also from the data store. It represents with the symbol called an arrow, and it indicates the direction of flow. The main point over here is that the direction of flow is indicated by using the arrow symbol, and the input and the output data flow is a label which is based on the type of data, or it associates the process or the data store, and this name is written along a arrow, that is like label. Okay, that is what label mentioned over an arrow that indicates what is the process that has been done, or it's the flow that has been carried over from the process to a data store, or else from the data store to a process, or else from a process to an entity, or entity to a process, right? So this is all about the data flow. Let us see some rules and tips to follow this DFT. A process has at least one input and an output. Okay, so it must have one output and input. And likewise, the data store that has at least one data flow in and one data flow out. The data store in a system should through a process, not through an entity. And all the process in a DFD go to another process or a data store. Right? So these are all some of the rules and tips we have to follow while we are going for trying in. Let us see an example for data flow diagram, the Lambda stand example. So the first thing what we have to do is we have to give a step-by-step process what the DFT have to do. That is, you have to create a list of activities that old way by using a use case diagram, and a new way is use case diagram. In old way there is no use case diagrams, in new way it use a use case diagram, and construct a context level, that is what the initial level of DFT, that identify only the source and the sink. That is what are all the external entities are there, and what is the major process that has been done by this entity will be specified in the context level diagram. And in the structure level, that is the zeroth level of DFD, that is what the basic level. So it identify the manageable sub process. What are all the sub process that can be done by the entities, that will be specified in the zeroth level. And at the constructive level 1, in this level, we are going to decompose the process in D by the entities. So identifying the actual data flow and the data store will be initiated from the level 1 to we can go up to n level of DFDs. So it is mentioned as 1 to n, right? So here, the first process that we have to create a list of activities, right? For a level system, we can go for specifying a customer order, right? The server, what are all the service that the product, what we are going to serve, and collect the payment, produce product, store products, order raw material, pay for raw material, pay for labor. These are all the major activities that are the maybe a process in an Lebanon system, right? And we can segregate it. First, what we have done is we have listed out, and now we are going to group these activities along the logical fashion where it can be possible to set. That is a customer order and a serve product, collect payment. This is one flow. And next will be the product. You have to what, to produce product, store that particular product, and we have to order for raw material, and we have to pay for the raw material. And next one is we have to what, pay for the labor. So we can segregate each and every activity in a club or a group. Let us start to draw this data flow diagram at the initial level. That is, we are going to draw the context level of DFT. It identifies only the source and the sink. Okay, that is what your destination and the initial part. So let us draw the context level diagram. So we have to identify in context level diagram, we have to identify all the entities. So who are all the entities which is related to this Amazon system? That is, one is customer, employee, and the vendor. So the first thing, we are going with the customer. Why? Because whenever he starts to order, then the process has been what, accomplished. So this customer who's going to order, okay, is going to order through this system using an arrow symbol. We can identify, we can mention that the data flow from the customer to the system, right? So ordering, what he is doing is ordering. So this is called label. Whatever the thing that is written under this data flow tag, that is an arrow, that will be indicated as an what, that is an a labeled text that has been done accordingly. So what he is doing, first he is approaching and ordering the particular thing in that system, and it reaches to the employee like sales forecast. Okay, so what he is doing, he is preparing the content for serve to the customer, and the production schedule has been done, and it is sent to the customer like right here, the product served to the customer. And then what he have to do, after getting the product what he have expected, he have to pay for it, right? So the customer has been paying, and the payment has been done, and it is reached to the employee. And the next person is that vendor, who receives the goods and the payments, and also we purchase for an raw materials. All other things will be done by this vendor, right? And that process will be indicated here. Okay, who's going for purchasing order, and is taking the order, and he's working on it, and he have to take care of all the raw materials, right? So this is what at the context level, that is what the initial level of your data flow diagram. So you have to identify the entities and what is the major process that has been done between all the entities. And next come to the construct level. Okay, the construct level 0. This is for the basic level, which will gives you identify manageable sub process. So in the context level, we have seen the initial level, initial process. But here we are going to identify what are all the sub processes that can be done in this system. So we know that who are all the entities, that is a customer, vendor, and an employee are the entities, major entities, and we know, we have already seen what are all the process that has been, what are all the data flow that has been done by all these three entities. So now we are going to see what are all the sub process that can be mentioned in the system. That is sale, isn't it? Production, procurements, payroll. So these are all the major things, that is major process that has been focused in the next level of your DFT. So what we have to do is for selling process, the customer has to order and the sales forecast has been reached to employee, and the production has in this production process, the what the system has to do, they have to send the service to the customer. And at the other side, another process is the procurement, where the inventory and other orders will be mentioned over here, and all the payment details will be connected to vendor, which is processed by the customer, right, through an employee. And the next will be the payroll, which is indicated for an employee by the process where he can get the payment, right? So this is what at the level 0, that is constructing level 0 DFT, identifies the manageable sub process. And the next will be level 1. From this level onwards, we are going to give a detailed note of data store and the process for each and every entity. Okay, that is, and customer order has been done and the payment has been done. We have received with the order, and the payment process has been done. That is focused by an focused to the employee. All other process has been done. So initially, what are all the major data store will be there: customer, order, and payment. Okay, this will be indicated here in the in the data store. And next will be we are going for looking into the order and the raw materials purchased and the inventory which is managed by the vendor. And next will be the order, what are all the order that has been purchased, the raw materials, received item, and what are all the item that has been paid, and the payroll. Everything will be seen in the next level. And at the last level, we are going for indicating the employee entity that gives you the time worked and payroll of the particular employee and the payment given to the particular employee as salary. Okay, the salary has been calculated all according to the working time. It has been processed. That will be indicated to the calculation of payment, and from the payment he is going to that particular person has been paid with the process. Okay, so this is all about your the last level of your DFT for the slum knot system. And here this diagram decomposes what are all the process in your data flow diagram, which is given as an example, right? For the context level, we have seen the Lebanon system, and in the level 0, we have seen sales, production, procurement, and payroll. And at the level 1, we have seen many subdivisions, many decompositions of each and every process. I think you can able to see this. This is a single process that is subdivided into, decomposed into many, right? Likewise, from here for sales, it is also decomposed to two process. Likewise, for production, we can majorly compare three. It compares with three major other subdivisions of process. Likewise, procurement also. Okay, going for purchasing order, receiving item, and paying vendor. And for the payroll, he's going for checking out with the process of the working time, calculating the salary, and the next thing will be the paying the payroll. Okay, so these are all the process that has been subdivided or decomposed from the major context level to a sub levels. That is level 1. Okay, so this is all about our data flow diagram, and I have given you an example like a bus garage repair. Okay, this is what on topic. You have to draw this own DFT, and I have already narrated what are all the process and what are all the entities there, and data store there, and data flow there. Okay, so see to this and you draw your own data flow diagram. So I have given you the links to draw your DFD. Using these links, you can use any of the link and you can draw your DFD for the example what I have given you. Okay. And at the next session, we are going to see about entity relationship diagram, introduction of entity relationship diagram, and how to create entity relationship diagram, and how to validate this entity relationship diagram. Let us see it in detail in the next class. Thank you all.